Good afternoon, dear students. I hope you are all well and safe in this pandemic. Anyway, I am Subhash Chandra Sarkar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Government Rajendra College, Puripur. Dear students, today the topic of my online discussion is 19th century novel. And you know this course is specially for honors fourth year students. So dear students, in your honors fourth year, the very first course is titled 19th century novel, and in this course you have four novels of 19th century. The first one is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. The second one is Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. Then Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, and finally Thomas Hardy's Tales of the Darby. So these four novels are included in your 19th century novel for your honors fourth year examination. So dear students, let us get ready for our today's online discussion. So you know, A Tale of Two Cities is a major historical novel in the history of English literature, and this novel is written by Charles Dickens. Usually, Charles Dickens is considered the greatest novelist in Victorian English literature or in Victorian era. Anyway, so Charles Dickens borrowed the materials of his historical novel from Thomas Carlyle's history and the French Revolution of 1789 for his tale of London and revolutionary Paris. The story is actually set in the late 18th century against the background of the French Revolution and the reign of terror in London and Paris before and during the French Revolution. You know, the very title of the novel indicates the two different cities of Europe, particularly London in England and Paris in France. Anyway, so the novel depicts the plight of the French farming community or peasantry demoralized by the French aristocracy in the years leading up to the Revolution. The corresponding brutality demonstrated by the revolutionaries toward the former aristocrats in the early years of the revolution. Usually, the reign of terror actually, and then many unfaltering social parallels with life in London as well as in life in Paris during the or after the French Revolution or before the French Revolution. So the novel is actually, you better say, a work of fiction. Definitely, it's a fiction, but it is based on history, particularly the history of French Revolution. Well, so the novel A Tale of Two Cities has 45 chapters, and the novel was first published in, you better say, weekly installment. That means in 31 weekly installment in Dickens' new literary periodical title All the Year Round. And finally, the novel was published in 1859 in book form. So the novel, if you take the novel in your hand, then you will find the novel is divided into three books. The name of the first book is Recall to Life. Then the second book is The Golden Thread, and the last or the third book is titled or named The Track of a Throne. And we have already mentioned the novel is set in the late 18th century against the background of the French Revolution. That means the novel is, you see, the novel is just before the French Revolution, during the French Revolution, as well as after the French Revolution. So the novel covers a wide range of years in the context of history. So Dear students, if we go a bit deeper into the plot's construction of the novel or plot overview of the novel, then you will find the novel A Tale of Two Cities tells the story of a French doctor named Alexandre Manette. His 18-year long imprisonment in the Bastille fort in Paris, and his release to live in London with his daughter Lucie Manette, whom he had never met. Well, when the novel starts, you will find that the novel starts in the year 1775, but the actual events of the novel started before that. So we will come to the point next. When the complex plot involves Sydney Carton's sacrifice of his own life on behalf of his friends Charles Darnay and Lucy Mallet. You will see that the novel is primarily a historical novel. But at the same time, you will find that history is not the only concern of Charles Dickens. You will find a triangle love story in the novel A Tale of Two Cities. And this triangle love story involves with the characters of Lucy Manette, then Charles Darnay, and definitely Sydney Carton. So the novel concludes with the guillotining of Sydney Carton in the scene which we find that Sydney Carton meets his death at the guillotine and the narrator, that means our novelist Charles Dickens, confidently assert that Carton dies with the knowledge that he has finally imbued his life with meaning. The novel A Tale of Two Cities, begins with a very famous sentence. It was the best of time and it was the worst of time. And at the same time, the novel ends with Sydney Carton remark. That means in that remark we find that it was far far better to die for a death or die for a cause which has a meaning. So the storyline of the novel, A Tale of Two Cities, is, you better say, if we oversimplify the storyline, then the storyline is about French Revolution, and then you will find the characters that are revolved or the character that are related with the incidents or with the events of French Revolution, both in London and in Paris. And the very title of the novel, A Tale of Two Cities, you find that the novel's action is pinned between two geographical areas, two geographic locations. The first one is London in England, and the second one in Paris in France. The novel's main action begins in 1775. We have already mentioned the year with Dr. Manette's return to England and ends around 1793. That means the French Revolution started in 1789, but the novel A Tale of Two Cities ended around the year 1793 with Sydney Carton's execution. So we find the key plot events that we find in A Tale of Two Cities occur even earlier in 1757 when Dr. Alexander Manette was first arrested. When we go a bit deeper into the storyline of the novel, then we find the incident. The presence of two main settings allows for Charles Dickens to incorporate multiple storylines unfolding, you better say, simultaneously in both places, which then come together in the novel's final section when all of the English characters find themselves in Paris. And definitely, when the novel ends, or you better say ended, then you will find the character that survived returns to London. That means in England. Well, so if we go to the character lines, and our novelist Charles Dickens is considered one of the greatest master creator of characters, and definitely you will find a range of wide characters or a range of many characters in his novel. And the novel A Tale of Two Cities is very famous or well known for many well-known characters in the history of English literature. So, if we consider the major character in the novel A Tale of Two Cities, then definitely we'll find Sydney Carton, then Lucie Manette, and definitely Charles Darwin. So, if we discuss a bit about the characters of A Tale of Two Cities, then the first character that attract when we complete the novel reading or the reading of the novel, the character is Sydney Carton. So, who is Sydney Carton? Sydney Carton is a quick mind but depressed English lawyer, or you better say barrister, though he is portrayed in the beginning as a cynical alcoholic, he ultimately becomes a selfless hero. And the character Sydney Carton represents the theme of selfless love in the novel A Tale of Two Cities. Well, then the next major character is Lucie Manette. She is an ideal pre-Victorian native, though the novel, is set in the late 18th century, but definitely, the lady that we find in that time setting is a pre-Victorian lady, perfect in every way. She is loved by both Sydney Carton and Charles Darwin, and Sydney Carton was rejected, and Charles Darwin got the opportunity to marry Lucie Manette. And Lucie Manette is the daughter of Dr. Alexandre Manette. She is the golden thread, the very title of the second book. After whom book the second is named, and she ties. Actually, you find she ties nearly every character, every major characters, you better say, in the book or in the novel, A Tale of Two Cities together. Then the character that we find Charles Darnay. Charles Darnay is not an English character by birth, rather, you better say he is a young French noble of the Evremont family. In disgust at the cruelty of his family to the French peasantry, he took on the name Darnay. That means Charles Darnay was Charles Evremont. Okay, but he took the name Darnay. Darnay was the name that he took from his mother's name. That means Darnay, the name that Charles Darnay took, was taken by Charles Darwin after his mother's maiden name, D'Albonemi. D'Albonemi is a French word, and left France for England. And he decided never to return in France or never to live in France any longer. Well, he exhibits an admirable honesty and proves his courage in his decision to return to Paris at great personal risk to save the imprisoned Gabriel. Gabriel was a minor character in the story or the novel, and definitely you find Gabriel was in charge of Evremont estate. He was actually a postmaster, and at the same time he performed the job of maintaining the finance find in the novel A Tale of Two Cities is Dr. Alexander Manette. So when the novel A Tale of Two Cities opens, the major character that attracts the attention of the readers in the novel A Tale of Two Cities is definitely the character of Dr. Alexander Manette. He is a French doctor actually, and he is Lucie's father, and he was kept as a prisoner in the Bastille fort for 18 years by the Evremont family. Evremont family was the family in which our Charles Darnay belonged. Anyway, and he was kept a prisoner in the Bastille for 18 years by the Evremont brothers. Well, so Dr. Alexander Manette was the character whom anyone who reads the novel A Tale of Two Cities will definitely love. And the character Dr. Alexander Manette died after 12 years after the death of Sydney Carton in Paris. Well, and Dr. Alexandre Manette dies, or you better say, died in London. Anyway, then the character that attract the attention of the readers is Monsieur. Monsieur is a French title, Monsieur Ernest Defarge. Well, Monsieur Ernest Defarge was actually once a servant to Dr. Alexander Manette when Defarge was a youth or a young man. And now, when the novel revolves or when the novel was in full place, then we find he was the owner of a French wine shop in a particular suburb near Paris and leader of the Jacquerie. Jacquerie is the movement in which the French peasantry revolt against the French aristocratic people. Well, so Dr. Monsieur Defarge, we have already mentioned, Dr. Alexander Manette was the master of Defarge, and now Defarge was the owner. And one of the key revolutionary leaders, he embraced the revolution as a noble cause, unlike many other revolutionaries. And this Monsieur Ernest Defarge was the husband of Madame Tharse Defarge. So this character, the Madam, the pronunciation of the word is Madam because this is a French word. In English version, the word is Madam. Anyway, so Madam Therese Defarge, she was a vengeful female revolutionary character in the novel A Tale of Two Cities, and definitely she is the antagonist of the novel A Tale of Two Cities. The antagonistic behavior that she kept in her mind was the torture and the sufferings her family underwent through the characters of Ebremont family. Well, so when the novel ended, we find Madame Defarge was killed by herself. Anyway, the next major character, or you better call this character John Bursar, is a bit confusing in the sense that John Bursar is, in the real sense, is Solomon Cross, the long lost brother of Miss Cross. So John Bursar is an informer for Britain and later employee of the Marquis Saint Evremont. He later becomes a spy for revolutionary France. So this John Bursar or Solomon Cross is a spy for Britain, and at the same first he was a Polish spy in Britain and then he was a peasantry in France. So the major character that we have already mentioned from the novel A Tale of Two Cities are bit interesting, and we have already mentioned that our novelist Charles Dickens is a master delineator of character, and his characters are very much well known in the history of English novels. Well, so now, dear students, let us get a bit deeper about the thematic topics or the major themes of the novel A Tale of Two Cities. So, when anyone will start reading the novel A Tale of Two Cities, the novel will appear to him or her as a political novel. But the novel A Tale of Two Cities, obviously it's a political, but at the same time it is also a anti-political novel in which the theme of duality, then the theme of resurrection, that means the biblical resurrection, is discussed or you will find in this novel. So, the novel, A Tale of Two Cities, deals with the major themes of duality, then revelation, resurrection. Then there are other major themes in the novel the centrality of women, the conflict between the aristocracy and the peasantry are also found in the novel. So the novel, the very time in which the novel is set, the time setting of the novel was the best of times, and it was the worst of times, both in England and in France, as economic and political unrest led to the American and French Revolution. So the main character in Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, that means Dr. Alexandre Manette, then Charles Darnay, and Sydney Carton, are all recalled to life or resurrected in different ways as turmoil erupts. So just think about the character of Sydney Carton. When we find the character of Sydney Carton, he was simply an alcoholic, cynical man. He has no mission or he has no meaning in his life. But when he falls in love with Lucie Manette, he finds a mission in his life. And finally, when he dies for the cause of Charles Darnay, he thinks at last he got a mission in which he finds his life meaningful. So, the theme of resurrection is a major theme in the novel A Tale of Two Cities. So, dear students, for time constant, we cannot discuss the novel A Tale of Two Cities in a detailed version or in a detailed form, but the objective of our online discussion was to give you an overview idea about the novel, or simply better say, we'll try to give you an overview about the novel A Tale of Two Cities. So, definitely, we can call the novel A Tale of Two Cities as a historical novel. And the very title of the novel indicates that the novel refers to two cities in Europe, particularly in England and in France. The name of the two cities are Paris and London. And the character that we find with the two major cities in the novel are all interrelated, and they play a major role in the incidents and in the events of the novel. So for the time being, I think this is all for today. So I think